My brain is finally catching up with my mouth. First game was a horrible, horrible experience. I'm freaking better than you. One of the games that you are going to potentially just toss the table. Hey, it's Chris. What are we talking about? Peak Team. They sent it to me. Is this the peak of the cooperative games of 2025? Or is it just going to pique your frustration? Little play on words there. That's what you're in store for. Let's frickin' go. Okay, so this game is an absolute lesson in limited communication cooperative frustration. And you need to know that going in above all else. The scaling difficulty is ridiculous, both in a good way and a potentially frustrating manner. So this is going to be helpful for you, hopefully, to figure out whether or not this game is going to fall on either side of that fence. This is a cooperative limited communication style game with 5 levels of difficulty in the approach of the same manner that you see set up in front of me. It plays 1 to 5 people. And I'm going to put this out there as one of the biggest criticisms that I can muster in a game like this is that you really kind of need 3. If you play with 2, you need a dummy player. If you play with 1, you can still do that, though. That works. So, what do you need to know? Because the basic gist of this game is still relatively straightforward, but the nuance and the layers of unpredictability, potential screwage, as well as mitigation are going to be a little bit all over the place in helping you figure out whether or not this is either going to be one of your favorite games or one of the games that you are going to potentially just toss the table with and get rid of, or not even try to acquire in the first place. It is potentially that divisive as a whole. So let's talk action economy system. Now, all of these 5 levels basically just build off of the previous ones, incorporating some of the different elements that you see out here in front of me. And I will give you more of the basic level overview with a few smatterings of those additions so you can see, okay, do I like this? Because you don't have to play it at any certain level. You can mix and match if you want to play level 2, if you want to play level 3, if you want to play level 4. It's more of a almost modular system that they've included for those that look at cooperative games, especially limited communication ones in the first place, and they go, oh, that's too easy for me. Oh, it's too simple for me. Well, they've got you scaling-wise covered in this game. At the start of the game, you get your individual player board that I have just off camera here. So let me pull up this one so you can kind of see what's going on as a whole. This one illustrates the main gist of what you've got. Now, what you do is you have one token over here that is a wild card. But in a limited communication style, it is not usable for you. Someone else, on their turn, can flip over yours in order to take an action. And that action is the main gist of this game. Because what you're doing on your turn, potentially, is moving around this map from location to location, as numbered and lettered, as you can see, in order to get to where your flags are. That achieves the missions that you will be allocated at the beginning as well as throughout the rounds as you progress. And they get slotted right here at the top of the board so you can see that. And then obviously the matching color flag reminds you of where it is constantly. When you get there, you complete the mission. You do not automatically redraw the mission. We'll talk about that and why that's set up on the right side of the board here for a reason next to the round markers, because you're going to be playing this game over 6 rounds. If you can complete all the missions before the end of the game, a little caveat there, a little asterisk, you win. If you, however, have more missions on the side of the board than more than the threshold allows, you lose. And that is the dynamic. And so this game, though, is based off of a card-driven limited communication manner. And these cards correlate to several things that you will be doing throughout the game. First and foremost, They are how you're moving, and they allow you to color match in the upper right and the upper left corner to the paths as you can see below on the board. And the number of icons indicates how many of those paths, spots that you can move. And again, with a slight asymmetric twist, and a few of these paths will actually change how you're moving along, and that is not dependent on the icons. For example, the river here just allows you to go as far downstream only, as you want. And also, we have the little tethered ones here, just allows you to go from point A to point B because there aren't any spots in between. All the other ones are kind of just go from one spot to the next. So with we'll assume this is a lynx here, bobcat, whatever you want to call it, you get to move 3 of that color. Now, helicopters are different because they take you to the ranger station, and the ranger station is a little bit different, as you can see on the upper corner here and the start one over here, because that is the only place that you can go and get the new missions to deplete them from the side of the board. And that matters because, like I said, that's the lose condition. Too many missions over there at the end of the round, you lose. So what happens, though, at the beginning of the round, the limited communication style, is you get 4 cards. You get to choose where these go. Because again, just like with that token I showed you, you don't get to use them. You equally allocate them to the people on your sides. And that is what they're going to have. They keep whatever cards are left over from the previous round, but that's the element of things of looking where the other people are and what the other people might want to do. But this is still a random draw from the top of the deck dealt out to those around the table. So that is, first and foremost, you can't really mitigate it. And if you shuffle crappy like I did in my first game, you get all the wrong ones at all the wrong times. And the first game was a horrible, horrible experience. Let's be truthful about this. Then, you have all your cards. You have your missions, because you are given one at the beginning of the game. You then are trying to maneuver around here. And so on your turn, you can play one of these cards to take the action. You can also discard these cards for a total of 4 icons in order to flip this token that somebody else previously used back to its wild card I can use it side. Then, the other element of things, as you can see on the board over here on the side, as well as a few left on the main board in the first place, are animal icons. The animal icons match the animals that you can see on these cards, which allow you to gather those to your board. That is the other win condition that you have to fulfill. You have to get through all of the missions, and you have to get all of the animal tokens collected. That's just level 1. The additional levels add additional barriers as well as accomplishments that you have to achieve. The additional layering in terms of that accomplishment is in the form of these special missions, for example, because you have to cover all of these spots at once. But you're going, Chris, I'm only playing with 3 people. Well, you just choose the first 3. But that's how you have to accomplish it at one point during the mission, in addition to all of the other spots you're trying to manage and mitigate and find your way to, which may be along your path, may not be. But again, simultaneous spot placement, which are, again, covered by gray flags to indicate their difference with what you've got going on. Now, the other elements that I have not talked about that are slowly included depending on what level or how many levels you want to incorporate are the unique asymmetric abilities in order to give you some mitigation, which is why the lesson in frustration of my first game of playing level 1 does not include these. And so they are actually double-sided in order to give you ways of changing your options in ways of additional places that you can move, or even card manipulation in the first place. The other element of things is these animal tokens. On the flip side of the animal tokens, you actually get abilities that allow you to mitigate in the same way, as well as the little wrench right here next to the wolf, removing barriers or blockades, if you will, because one of the other layers is that you put these little forest tokens out there at the beginning of the game, a certain number, and they correlate to the spots on the board that are going to get blocked, so you can no longer use the path in the same way unless you use the wrench to get rid of it. As I showed you with the player board, you can only have 2 missions at a time, and so you can't get more missions until you achieve them. And when you achieve them, you take them from the round that you are currently on, which actually carries over any ones from the previous round that you didn't achieve in the first place. And so that threshold, even if you pass that round, increases in difficulty as you move along. And again, you can only get them from the ranger stations, and you can only give 1 per person per time you do that on a turn. So even if pink had both of their spots empty and pink or another player goes there, they can only get 1. So again, something that you're going to have to deal with. The last element, in case this doesn't seem hard enough, because trust me, adding in these blockers just completely scales it up, even though it doesn't seem like it, is the weather deck. And the weather deck here actually adds both a boon and a curse potentially, or a neutral and a positive if you're lucky, because it allows you to change the circumstances that are out in the first place. Before the supply drop, you must move upwards 1 step to another location of your choice. If you are able, you cannot move into a ranger station. Then, similarly, other things like hail. If you must take a road step, you must discard an additional card. But you can use 2 road icons as a wild step. So a way to deal with things that is not fully potentially negative, but also will maybe give you a little bit of the inside track very subtly. That's not enough. Somehow, as only level 4 before you add the weather cards, are the 6 test tokens, which get added to the special mission cards in order to determine how many of those you can gain essentially before the end of the round, because it just basically says, how good do you think you are? Who do you think you are? As I'm always often told. It allows you to have some variability in how many of these you need to achieve up to your player count, but also 1 less. So in this case, I could place 2 or 3 of these, and your how good you are is totaled up if you can achieve all of the other endgame conditions by how many of these you have, in order to really objectively say, I'm freaking better than you. But again, if you flip it face up as the next one, because you can do as many as you want, 1 at a time, if you don't achieve it, that's still a lose condition, even if you've already achieved previous ones already. So that is Peak Team. Oh boy, right? Let's unpack this. Who is going to like this game? Limited communication lovers. This is doing things differently in the allocation, because usually limited communication is just, I can't tell you what I've got. And yes, there is that when you're allocating the missions, because you can't tell people and say, I really want that one. I have the cards that will get me there. Or crap, I have these cards and who should I give them to? You can't do that. But once you have them, you can do it. So it's not full limited communication in that sense. I guess maybe that's why it's the term limited communication and not no communication. My brain is finally catching up with my mouth. But then the other aspect of things is that it is just a fun cooperative game. The experience of shared mutual frustration of moving around this board and trying to get where you're going, and then giving other people the ability to achieve, is tremendous. I love that from a cooperative sense. You are truly working with other people. Speaking of truly working with other people, though, I see what you did there, Matago and Scott Almes, putting in your own named card. Ooh, that's clever. I'm still waiting for one of mine to show up in a game somewhere. But if you like being able to be incredibly tactical on your toes and achieve an overwhelmingly uphill, so to speak, pun included there, and intended somewhat, this is the game for you. Because although the level 1 is a complete abject lesson in frustration, it's more of a learning what the system is, rather than I feel like the way the game was truly meant to be played in the first place. And that's why, if you only judge it by its cover in that sense, this game is going to just make you more mad than anything else. But if you can get past that and you can have the integration of the mitigation and the mitigation on these elements of the carabiners and the animal powers, it's going to allow you to feel just that sense of accomplishment that truly many cooperative games, as their main detractor, do not in the first place. As a tie-in and moving into the what won't you like or who won't like this, the ability to have turns where you are unable to do jack frickin' squat, because I didn't mention, but you only have this limited number of actions with the cards and the tokens, and as soon as you pass in the lower levels, because you can't introduce a rest action at higher levels, you don't get any other subsequent turns, and so once everyone has passed, that's what triggers the new round. But the positive on that is feeling the sense of accomplishment when you previously had a round where you felt minimal at best in terms of your participation, and you can overcome, achieve, and make up for that in future rounds. That is not something I see commonly in games like this from a cooperative sense. At the same time, from a you won't like it, you will have rounds and turns that you get crap cards. You have a thing that you can't get up to at the top of the board here, and it just is not going to allow you to get up this green flag because you don't have any of these different path cards in the first place. And that is going to be truly, truly frustrating. And as I said with the cards originally, this is totally deck dependent, because the right cards may not come out at all when you need them. They just might not show up in anybody's hand, or they might show up on the opposite side of the table. Now, you can trade if you're in the same spot, but if you're having to be in the same spot in this game, that's not usually always a positive sign in the first place. The missions, I mean, what you see is what you get. But the special missions also are going to be a lesson in frustration, but also increased difficulty. So how do you feel about that for an already difficult game? The other thing, going back for a second, even though I already went to this next section, is that it does allow you to sort of mix and match these. If you like the powers, if you don't like the blocks, if you want the weather without one, you don't have to necessarily do all of these. You can customize it if you want to across the board. And that is the flexibility that I love to see, depending on your group experience, depending on your experience as a gamer, but also depending on how much of a challenge you feel like doing that night as well. Because sometimes you get the game out and you go, yeah, I really want to play this, but holy crap, I do not want to have to manage that tonight. Let's just turn it back a little bit and dial down the brain burneriness for one night as a whole. The other elements of things, though, is there's randomness, right? The randomness of the order of the mission cards, which you have no control over. The randomness of the deck in the first place that we just talked about. The randomness of the ability tokens. The randomness of the blockades. The randomness of the special missions. All of that is going to potentially, again, just layer on layer on layer on layer. At least they're consistent, right? In what you won't like, it's going to be ever present through all elements of the game. So what do I think of it then? Final thoughts after this? Going back to the teaser intro, is this truly one of the best cooperative games of the year? Or is this an absolute, it's going to just frustrate me and not be interesting to me in the first place? Which one is it? I mean, it's hard not to contain myself because this is truly one of the best cooperative games of the year for me. Because of those elements. I like the sense of overcoming and overachieving and the sense of progression that this game allows for, especially with a real tie-in cooperatively in that way. Am I going to play with all of those levels and all of those mechanics all the time? Hell no. No, not at all whatsoever. But it's something that is truly different from a cooperative sense than what is out there in the first place. And I think they have absolutely knocked it out of the park, right? When you talk about games, sometimes you look at a game and you look at the concept of a game before you buy it, before you read the rules, before you look at the playthrough, and you go, I'm going to freaking like that. Well, one of two things happens in these games. You either absolutely freaking love it, or, in my case, you will also potentially go, holy crap, why did I even think that was going to be a good fit? And this is definitely the former. This is definitely I looked at the description of this and I said, this is going to be for me. And it is. It is. This is going to be up there this year of the other cooperative games with Eternal Decks, Fate of the Fellowship. Add Peak Team to that list. No doubt whatsoever. I'm saying that right now if your taste is like mine. This will be a game you will lose. You will lose even in the early rounds because of the sense of progression of those missions that you're not going to be able to get them allocated. You're not going to deal with that. Scaling, it's a little bit easier at the higher player counts, truth be told. It needs a little bit of that as well, but it's going to spread things out further, so it's going to be harder, again, to get the people the cards they want. So it's a nice sort of balance between those two elements, because if they're out of whack, then, it definitely gets tilted one way or the other in either this is too easy or this is way too freaking hard, Chris. And so I think they actually do a great job of that. The variability, well, the replayability, both of those. The replayability, though, is much more than the variability, just by the order in which that chaos is created in the first place with all of those elements that you may or may not like as, again, the big yes or no for you as a whole. Because of the randomness of that order, it is never going to look anywhere close to the same. The powers, the blockades, the weather, all are going to give you immense replayability in this, again, relatively small-sized box for what it is. It punches way above its weight for me, price-wise, as well as playtime-wise in this way. And it does not overstay its welcome either. This is not a long game unless you're significantly analysis paralysis, which you shouldn't be, except for maybe when you're trying to figure out what to pass who. Apart from that, boom, 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 boom. So yes, this game is excellent for me. This game is going to be on a lot of people's interest lists, but there are also going to be, because of all the things I've described, a lot of people bouncing off this game hard if your expectations in some of these areas is completely different. And that's okay, but know that before you go into it as well. So that is Peak Team and why I freaking love it. Yeah, it's probably going to be on my top 10 of the year. Spoilers, which actually reminds me at the end of this video, this might be the year of cooperative games because I will probably have at least 3 games, cooperatively speaking, maybe even at least 4 minimum on my top 10 at the end of 2025. So that's why, again, at the beginning, I sort of alluded to, is this the year of cooperatives? Whoo dog. This is freaking great. So there you go. Hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully you liked it. If it's of interest to you, go give it a look-see. And that's all I got. Stay classy. Peace out. Subscribe if you like. And that's all I got at the end of the video. So have a great freaking fantastic day.